Is that actually your name, Apollo?
Yeah, I actually legally changed my last name to Poetry.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey.
So I'm curious, as people who do work in the media, why do you feel there's such a focus on negativity, and how can we get more attention and awareness on the positivity that you guys are talking about right now?
There is an expression in the news business that we don't report on the plane that lands safely. And, you know, I think that there is some, you know, that it's a bit of a snarky expression, but there actually is some truth to it. You know, our job is really to point out the problems in the world, to bring attention to them, and so hopefully that they get fixed. And at our best, we're doing that. So I will defend negativity, if you want to call it that, in that sense. The other thing I'd say is there's a reason why most newscasts end with something positive, because viewers love that. That said, there have been attempts over the years to start all good news outlets, and to my knowledge, none of them have worked in some spectacular way. And so I guess I wonder, why is that, and what does it say about the market for news? And one has to bear in mind that Arianna and I exist in a capitalist context. We are, you know, we survive based on providing something that customers want, and that doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation and a duty to provide important news that they may not yet know they want. And I take that very, very seriously, and we have lots of discussions about that around ABC, and I'm sure they do around the HuffPo. As Arianna said earlier, when they started the sleep section, there was a lot of eyebrow raising about that, but it turned out to be something that people really do want to know, even though nobody may have thought of it at that point. So we do have an obligation to come up with positive stuff and to point it out, but I think we also have an obligation to find the problems in the world, in our government, in our society, in parenting, in trafficking, in traffic, in all areas of human endeavor, and to point those out to people. Arianna?
Yes, obviously we have to do that, and we are doing that. That's the kind of bread and butter. But I feel that something is changing, which is that the kind of stories that people like to share, so certainly when you're an online operation as we are, a lot of our traffic is social traffic, viral traffic, and there is now a convergence between our obligation and what is good for business, that we are finding that the stories that people most want to share are positive stories. And we have actually a dedicated section called the Good News section, which is one of our most successful sections, and which also has a waiting list for sponsors. So it's successful both in terms of traffic and advertisers. And we have a dedicated section called Impact, which is all about stories of generosity and compassion. And we are finding that these are the stories that our readers like to share with each other. And so while in traditional newsrooms, you know, you had the tagline that, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. We are now finding that actually the stories that our readers gravitate to include, you know, stories of compassion, generosity, ingenuity, and a lot of the stories that Dan and I have been discussing here of how do we lead healthier, more productive, more compassionate lives are also stories that people are now hungry for more than ever before. And, you know, just to give you an example, while at the Huffington Post, our politics section remains the #1 politics section online, last month, our healthy living section overtook our politics section in traffic. So there's something happening, which is part of the global shift, that I think a conversation like that simply helps accelerate. But the shift is already happening towards looking at our lives in more holistic ways that include a lot of the things that you talked about, Apollo.